Why is it important to talk about Trump in 2025?
Tariff threats, we are looking at deadlines, we are looking at, all sorts of noise which is coming from Trump. So we need to understand the American society and American politics pretty well. Tariff threats or no threats. No Indian government can really give up that sort of concession to anybody.
Prime Minister Modi and Trump, we keep on saying that they have a good relationship, but that hasn't been translated into business.
Why is America important to us in the first place? Indians have not really able to penetrate the inner circle of the current sort of Trump administration. Saam, daam, bhed. I think this is what should be our approach while dealing with Trump.
Absolutely. India is going to be making a deal with them soon. What kind of deal do you think India is going to have?
The issue is, are there going to be instant sort of results? America has been ripped off by its trade partners, by its trading partners, and you now have even Trump issuing a threat that even just before the BRICS summit, that if de-dollarisation is being talked about, we are going to ensure that they're going to put in sanctions, 500% sanctions on BRICS countries.
And he has given an ultimatum of 50 days to Trump is back at the center of the world's arguments. Market twitch, alliances shuffle, and battlefields feel the ripple when he speaks. Today on Dive for Publisher, we are cutting through the noise with Dr. Manish Dabhade. He teaches diplomacy at CIPOD, School of International Studies, JNU, where he also earned his MA, MPhil, and PhD after a BA from Ferguson College, Pune. His work sits at the intersection of history, theory, and the practice of diplomacy, with a clear mission to build a global knowledge center and a leaders network that carries Indic value into the world. We'll map Trump's worldview, America first as negotiation style, power as leverage, timing as tactic, and what it means for India on defense, tech, trade, and visas. We'll also examine his instincts on Pakistan and the Afghan legacy, his likely moves on Israel, Gaza, and Ukraine, and the big one for Delhi, China's rising weight, and how a Trump White House might try to bend it. This isn't about taking sides. It's about understanding how decisions get made and how India should prepare. If you care about where the next 4 years could go, stay with us. This is Dive for Publisher. I'm Shivam Arya. Let's get started. Before we dive into today's conversation, I want to take a quick moment and ask for a favor. We noticed that 93% of you who watch our content regularly aren't subscribed yet. My promise to you is simple. If you hit that subscribe button, we'll keep working hard to bring thought-provoking conversations, incredible guests, and the topics you really care about the most. It is practically free for you, but it makes a huge difference for us, helping us grow, reach more people, and bring even better content your way. Thank you for supporting. It means the world to us. Now let's get back to the video. Dr. Manish Dabhade, welcome on Dive for Publisher, and an honor to have you here today.
Great, Shivam, and I'm extremely humbled to be invited to your podcast. I've seen some of them, and it's great to be, in the company of really smartest strategic minds you have interviewed on your podcast since many months, I guess.
Thank you very much. Sir, today, as you're a director of a think tank which is working towards nation building. It's called Indian Futures, the Indian Futures. We will talk about it later, but before that, the main aspect of our subject topic today is on the most famous person on planet Earth right now, Mr. Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
Why is it important to talk about Trump in 2025?
Very important reason, of course, is that he is the president of the United States. Still remains the unrivaled power in today's world, and U.S. matters in more than couple of ways for India, and we can in fact discuss that also.
To begin with, let me ask you: how does India perceive the U.S. according to you, and Trump? How do we perceive Trump and what all his activities that he does on a daily basis?
That's a very tricky question, but I think there are two tracks actually we should be looking at when you're talking about US and Trump. So in fact today is a very special day, July 18th. It's exactly 20 years ago India and US signed through a joint statement in White House George W. Bush, President then, and Dr. Manmohan Singh, a landmark civil nuclear agreement which was incorporated in the joint statement between India and the US. And I think so. If you look down that road till 2025, it has been a bipartisan consensus in favor of India. That ultimately India matters to the US, and India should be. And in fact, there was a statement from highest quarters in the US that India's rise is in America's interest. So I think there was a continuous sort of deepening and widening of India-US partnership, which was global and comprehensive strategic partnership. That is how it's called. And India was really getting closer to the US in a very bold sense, which it has not done, obviously because of the historical baggage which we had in terms of our non-aligned movement. And post 1991, obviously with the disintegration of Soviet Union, so tentative steps were being taken, and 1998 nuclear tests in fact were really a turning point which led to a solid India-US engagement which carries on till date. What has happened in 2025 is the return of Donald Trump as the American president. If you look comparatively, if you look back at the earlier presidency of Donald Trump, Trump 1.0, in fact, Ashley Tellis had written a fantastic piece in Foreign Affairs where he, in fact, alluded that the surprising success of India-US partnership under Donald Trump. Because you would remember when Donald Trump came to office in 2017, there was lots of, unease, how, especially amongst American allies and partners like Japan, South Korea, Australia, because Trump was seen as unpredictable, and India somehow managed in the first term to really have a close relationship with Donald Trump. And you had the Howdy Modi event, you had the Motera event, Ahmedabad, where Donald Trump came. So I think these were all very successful markers of a very close relationship between India and the US. What has happened in after Trump came to office again in 2025 this year is that India really pushed ahead and had an early visit to the US White House, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi was there, and it had they had a wonderful meeting and a great outcome. And this was important because you look at how other leaders were treated in the White House. So I think that was then.
So as much as we speak about relationship between Prime Minister Modi and Trump, we keep on saying that they have a good relationship, but that hasn't been translated into business as when it comes to diplomacy, when it comes to trade. We often see Trump trying to negate how India treats its trade values, and it always speaks a little negative about our trade policies. Do you have any comment on that?
No, I think that's exactly the problem. In fact, I would also admit that when initially Trump came to office, many of us were really hoping for a really sort of sound and firm development of ties between India and US. But I think things really turned south, especially during Operation Sindoor. And obviously, initially, there was condemnation of attacks at Pahalgam, terrorist attacks, what happened in Pahalgam. And also when India launched Operation Sindoor, there was no, there was no reaction, there was no, statement coming out against India's actions. But I think what really changed the dynamic was obviously what happened on the ceasefire question. And Trump seemed to have, Trump in fact claimed that he was the one who really brokered this ceasefire and had mediated. So I think that really...
He still claims.
Yeah,
we continuously
more than 20
been
times
coming in media, even our foreign secretary after a meeting with Trump said that Prime Minister Modi had a long meeting, long chat on call, and he said the first thing he said that the reality is far from what Trump says, that US had no role in the ceasefire between India and Pakistan, but Pakistan urged us to get a ceasefire.
Absolutely. So I think that thing has been questioned again and again and rebutted again and again, but Trump persists with that. So I think that is having clear implications for India's domestic politics. And I think so that is number one aspect. The number two, which you pointed out, obviously is about trade. So I think generally the ground has shifted in the US on the questions of trade and tariffs. So this whole notion of this whole constituency about MAGA is very clear that they really want to get, number one, jobs, manufacturing jobs, especially back in the US. Number two also is that this whole theory which is being propagated, maybe rightly, maybe partly rightly, is that America has been ripped off by its trade partners, by its trading partners, and has huge deficits against it, balanced against it. I think so. That is one aspect, and also jobs. Ultimately, at one level, if you look at the job scenario, it's pretty dismal, and I think that really is connecting. So whatever Trump is doing at some level is really catering to his own domestic base, and that is what I think we are not appreciating enough. In fact, one of the top scholars, IR scholars, did write exactly that America has changed, and it's very important that we bring in more and more scholarship which is dedicated to understanding how American society has changed, how American politics has changed, and unless we get that right, we are going to only look at the symptoms, and which is exactly what Trump is doing. That we're just looking at tariff threats, we are looking at deadlines, we are looking at all sorts of noise which is coming from Trump. So we need to understand the American society and American politics pretty well.
Sir, you were saying that his popularity has been there from the MAGA, but there's a belief now that the numbers of his popularity has gone down since last 6 months. Why do you think is that the case internally in the US?
No, I don't think that is, the issue I think is it's too early to really take a call on what is happening with the MAGA crowd. Because at one level, the tariffs, the threats which he is doing, the Liberation Day declaration, I think what is happening is that there is obviously a visible excitement that ultimately Trump is going to get manufacturing back home, is really targeting the business and trade rivals, trade and especially China. So I think there is a sort of a positive that something is happening on that front. The issue is, are there going to be instant sort of results? And I think that is where it's too early to make a judgment even for the MAGA crowd. And I think they are making the right noises in terms of supporting Trump. And again, once the midterm elections happen, it will be very clear where exactly has that MAGA crowd moved to.
So you spoke about tariffs and trade. He has been given a lot of extensions when it comes to making deals with the US. Around the world, he sends a message that, you have these many more days to make a deal with me, and he keeps extended that. There's a joke in the US media, they call it taco, that Trump always chickens out. Having said that, only yesterday, US did a deal with Indonesia, where Trump announced that Indonesia is going to pay the US 19% in tariffs, and US won't be paying anything. His second statement was that India is going to be making a deal with them soon. What kind of deal do you think India is going to have?
No, I think there are a couple of sticking points between India and US. So one is the sector-specific tariffs which Trump has imposed. That applies to all countries. So the whole idea is to really ensure that critical sort of materials, critical minerals, so all those supply chains are brought back home, and again on national security grounds, and also to boost industrial productivity. So that is number one area where I think those areas would not be really not exactly non-negotiable, but I think you won't be expecting too many concessions from America on that front. The second, I think, very important is about bilateral trade, where the talk is about 26% tariffs, and I think that is where negotiations are happening. He's still not talking about reciprocal tariffs, which he talks in other cases. So I think there is a scope for a negotiation, and again, it is going to be a very challenging job for India's trade negotiators, for the simple reason is, if you're talking about agriculture, opening up agriculture, if you're talking about dairy products, so I think that would have, because that is really the livelihood of a majority of farmers in India, and no Indian government, and let me tell you this, that no Indian government can really give up that sort of concession to anybody, tariff threats or no threats.
How important is US for us when it comes to trade? Because US is the only country that imports a lot from us. We export a lot to the US,
Right.
mainly agriculture products. What is the implication of, let's say, if we don't get on a good deal with the US?
Shivam, we really have to look at the broader picture that why is America important to us in the first place? So it's not a question of only trade. Trade is just it's a very important part of the entire relationship. But I think first and foremost, it is very important to understand that for us, it is America still remains the primary sort of source for foreign investments, for innovation, for technologies. So I think access to those technologies, access to that foreign investment remains a primary sort of agenda, because the scale at which America does, no other power can match it. So I think that is number one, which we need to keep in mind. Number two, I think national security. America also matters to us because of national security concerns. Ultimately, we all saw what happened during Operation Sindoor, and we also have a legacy of issues with China. So, China acting alone and China acting in alliance with Pakistan remain a grave security challenge, literally a clear and present danger in that sense, which we saw during Operation Sindoor. So I think that is one aspect we need to keep in mind. The third also is our own people, NRI population in US, Indian Americans are 4 million. So that's a huge number, and I think we also get remittances. We also have our own sort of investments there. So I think in keeping this, and I've just identified top 3 or 4 sort of sectors or domains where I think America matters to us. So I mean, trade deal obviously is extremely important, and I think that Indian negotiators are very clear about what are India's red lines on trade, and India is open. We have been following the negotiations, following whatever is coming out in the public domain, news items and comments by people who are in knowledge of what is happening. That okay, agriculture and dairy products, obviously there is going to be minimal space for India to concede, but on other areas I think India would be for example high-end textile products, other I think items. I think India would be open to giving concessions and opening Indian markets for American products.
Just to briefly break away from Mr. Trump, let's talk a little bit about your think tank in the Indian Futures. We were speaking about how India should safeguard our national interest and we should focus on our nation building. How is your think tank helping in this domain, sir?
So I think we started with a dream I'm completely inspired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of new India, transforming India, and now we are talking about Viksit Bharat at 2047. What we realize that, especially coming from an academic community, that we need to be investing in the power of ideas. How can we really there is a vision out there is a goal which we all have in mind, and all Indians are really wanting to make. We talk about MA MAGA, but this is really about making India great again. So how can we contribute? So I think there are so we do have stakeholder conversations, we do have publications, we do hold conferences, seminars, but exactly the whole idea is to reach out to really top minds, not just in India, they're in different parts of the world, who really want India to succeed, because India is full of diversity, democracy. So I think this whole idea of India itself is so inspirational. So we thought maybe if we can, in whatever ways, in modest ways, we can contribute to really making India great again. In that sense, that would be really something very, very sort of noble way in which we can do it.
Basically, you're aligned with PM Modi's vision of India's vision of Viksit Bharat by 2047.
Absolutely.
When it comes to being, a developed country by 2047, there will be a lot of challenges in the way as well. 2 of them are our neighbors. It's in our neighborhood, the threat perception that we get from Pakistan and China for our growth. And when we see that we also we have to see the dynamics between the US and these countries as well. Before we get into US China, let's talk about the US Pakistan. Recently we saw Field Marshal Asim Munir meet Donald Trump as a president. There's never been an army personnel who meets the president. But in this case, it was. What did you assess by that, sir?
No, it's actually very unprecedented that rather than dealing with a civilian government or the head of the civilian government, President Trump chose interact with General Field Marshal Asim Munir, especially in the backdrop of what happened in Operation Sindoor. So I think that is really a problem, and I think that has really put really a bad taste in the chemistry between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump. We choose our friends, we choose our what sort of partners. And that's exactly because Pakistan, obviously, I was also looking at some literature where, and especially news items, that Pakistan has been delivering on some sort of American counter-terrorism initiatives, which was a marked change, which was appreciated by the Trump administration, number one. Number two, Pakistan was also needed, especially in the whole Israel-Iran war. So I think so that sort of dynamic has also influenced why America chose other than you have read stories about the cryptocurrencies, the business deals.
Yeah.
So I think those sorts of also elements, and I think India really, the Indian diplomatic establishment in the U.S. Really needs to get much more smarter to really. And there is a point, and some of the top people, in fact, who are based in DC, have really acknowledged to that effect that Indians have not really able to penetrate the inner circle of the current sort of Trump administration. Though we do have, let's not forget that India was represented by Dr. S. Jaishankar at the swearing ceremony. The first bilateral meeting which we had, which Jaishankar had, was with which Marco Rubio, as Secretary of State, had was with Jaishankar, and also the Quad meeting immediately after the swearing in ceremony. So I think so we really put our steps in that right direction. But I think the Pakistan issue and the dealing with Pakistan
It's more personal.
I would not call it personal, but it is definitely a diplomatic challenge, a political challenge for India in the times
No, but it's
ahead.
personal because one, maybe Trump would have met Field Marshal Munir. I don't want to call him Field Marshal Munir, General Munir, as a lobbying support for his attack in Iran could be one. But also we must put in front of the picture that they have personal interest. The Trump family has personal interest when it
Absolutely.
comes to Pakistan as well, because they've got a lot of businesses set up when it comes to cryptocurrency, like you said.
No, absolutely. No, see, the point is, look at the size of Pakistan's economy and look at the size of India's economy. So, we are the fourth largest economy in the world. Why should we not be able to offer or work closely with the Trump administration on even business interest? So I think there's a window out there which needs to be exploited. And again, this is exactly the part of diplomacy, that you have an agency. It's not that whatever is happening is all set in or in stone. So you of course can change the narrative, number one, and you can also change the policies through interventions. This whole thing about Indian, and going back to the Indian sort of way of thinking, saam, daam, bhed. I think this is what should be our approach while dealing with Trump.
Absolutely. When you place the US, Trump-led US right now, would you still call it a superpower, or would you call it a declining power?
No, I would not go that far to call it a declining power. There's still looking at the current power metrics. US still remains. It's almost, if you want to characterize the world, it is still a near unipolar system. America still retains, its power going by many metrics. In some some technologies, maybe China is ahead, or maybe China is catching up, but America still remains the preeminent power. And look at what, and there are examples. Look at what happened with in the West Asian theater. Is exactly that the American Operation Midnight Hammer strike really completely changed the dynamics, and it led to a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. So America still retains that position because of the technological lead, also in as a defense superpower.
You said technologically leading in terms of geopolitics, but out of the 66 critical technologies, by the year 2005, US was leading 55 of those 66 critical technologies. It's reversed now. China is leading 57 or 58 critical technologies when it comes to against the US.
Yeah,
So that has changed.
Yeah.
One, and when it comes to tactical military tactics around the world, we have been seeing US fail everywhere, in Afghanistan, in Iran, Iraq, and now we seeing in West Asia as well, slipping away in the Israel-Gaza war, also for instance, and as well as Russia-Ukraine. So we always seen wherever US has gone, it hasn't been able to get its objective as the state in the beginning.
Look at, America's allies. They are in all parts of the world, even today. Look at China. You can just count Russia, you can just count maybe Iran, maybe just North Korea. But the network of allies and friendships which America has is really, it's throughout the entire continent, different continents. Unlike China, and I think also let's not discount America's soft power. American dream still really is overpowering for many countries. Many people in different parts of the world. Not many people are saying that they want to go and settle in China. They want to work in China. So I think that the power of democracy, the power of soft power. And again, there might be different sectors, and you're absolutely right that China is in fact leading in those technologies. But I think still, if you look at the broader picture, America is still much ahead of China in many ways.
Sir, I have a theory that whenever there is a change in the power dynamics around the world, there is a lot of conflicts that we see. We see conflicts in Russia, Ukraine. We see in the West Asia front. We recently had one in our South Asia as well, Southeast Asia with Pakistan. What is your take on these conflicts? What do you think? Do you think that there are a lot of conflicts when the power dynamics change from one power to another?
Of course, especially in West Asia. In fact, I should be saying this. Maybe sounding immodest, but I did write a piece what happened with Israel. October 7 attacks, and completely in crisis mode, and it was really one of the worst terror attacks in recent history. And look at how Israel stormed back, and exactly strategic thinking, strategic mindset, and it really went after after the proxies of Iran. You have with Hezbollah, you have obviously started with Hamas and also Hezbollah, then what happened in Syria, and now finally it really thought that the mother of all those proxies had to be targeted, and it went ahead, and to that extent it has really transformed from being really as the principal target of its rivals, of its adversaries who were out to eliminate Israel, to now a complete commanding position in West Asia, in Middle East, and obviously, no one could have imagined that exactly this that Trump would really come to Israel's rescue. But look at Trump coming out openly and also bombing Iran's nuclear facilities. So I think that's really how changed, and that's exactly where even American power matters.
Do you see that as a victory that the US had the capability to attack Iran in such a manner? Did you see that as a defeat
absolutely.
to Iran, or a victory for the US or Israel?
No, absolutely. I think I would definitely call it a victory for Israel, for US, because all said and done, Iranian nuclear. There was this whole nuclear bluff which was called out by Israel and even Americans because of Iran's nuclear technologies and the ability to really strike back on America, or especially American allies in the Middle East. So I think that completely really showed again the power of US. And let's not forget, Iran was actively supplying drones and other ammunition to Russia, but Russia didn't come to Iran's defense. Look at China. Even China completely stayed away from the conflict. So I think in that sense, Israel and America were able to prevail in this round of sort of confrontation with Iran. So I think that really also shows that who is not exactly in charge, but who can be really, who can really take the geopolitical conflict in a particular direction.
There's another shift that I see in the geopolitical dynamics is the how active BRICS is now. BRICS, which is led by Russia as well, and China and India also, but has been seen as an anti-West kind of sentiment. And with its policies, like a lot of them try to introduce de-dollarisation. Do you think BRICS is an important part in the swing in the power dynamics?
See, I mean, this is quite. I mean, we all get enchanted that BRICS is something which is really going to stand up to US. I don't really see that as happening, because please understand, each of the players in BRICS, the original players in BRICS, is really taking a position, but also, I mean, would be more than happy to have a deal with Trump. So look at China, look at Russia, look at even India. So you might be taking, and again, India is not taking open anti-American position, because India has been clearly saying that we are not anti-Western, we are just non-Western part of BRICS. So I think India has made it very clear that it is not getting into the scam business. And very importantly, you talked about the de-dollarization. I don't think that is going to be very easy. And you now have even Trump issuing a threat that even just before the BRICS summit, that if de-dollarization is being talked about, we are going to ensure that they're going to put in sanctions, 500% sanctions on BRICS countries. I don't see BRICS really taking on the West, taking on the US in the real sense.
So the strategic circle in the US believes that they have two threats: a prolonged threat that comes from Russia, and the emerging threat that is in the case of China. When it comes to Russia, Trump mentioned that he would get peace soon as he comes into office. It's been 6 months and he hasn't been able to get any peace. Forget peace, they haven't even gotten together to have a conversation on the subject. The narrative has changed. Now he wants to support Ukraine and get Russia to sign for a ceasefire. And he has given an ultimatum of 50 days to Vladimir Putin when it comes to the peace deal in Russia, Ukraine. Your thoughts on that?
No, I think again, the transactional president, the deal guy. So what President Trump is actually looking at, and in fact he's been doing it for all his entire life, talking about deals and making deals, and applying all sorts of pressure tactics to get the parties to the negotiation table. And please also understand that there is a clear sort of in Trump's head that wars, I mean, have to be ended, and he needs to be seen as a peace guy. So I think that is what is driving. And if you look at when Benjamin Netanyahu came after Operation Rising Lion to White House, the first thing he announced was that he was nominating President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. That, it seems, is really very addictive for President Trump. So in this case also, he really is wanting to pushing both Russia and Ukraine to end the war and maybe agree to a ceasefire, and that exactly giving deadlines, using all sorts of pressure tactics is the usual sort of the Trumpian way of doing things.
Keeping America's military-industrial complex, do you think peace is beneficial for the United States?
Please understand that what you have asked makes sense at one level, but also there's when you talk about the domestic constituency, there is a very sort of significant domestic constituency which has seen post 9/11 wars in Afghanistan, war in Iraq, carrying on for years and years. So I think there is a genuine crowd there that the veterans, the people who have been, the families who have been affected by those conflicts, they really are in support of Trump, and that's exactly was one of the Trump electoral platforms, that he is going to end the wars, so that it really takes care of that domestic constituency also. The military-industrial complex, I think, nations are not going to stop preparing for wars. So I don't think you need an active war to really get the MIC rolling out to their sort of hardware or software. So states are going to we are living in a self-help world, so states are going to buy sort of and get ready. Defense preparedness is going to be part of any state's survival toolkit, so that is not going to stop.
When it comes to China, we see another threat coming in the South China Sea, as well as the Taiwan Strait. What do you think? How would US react if China decides on annexing Taiwan?
No, I think there is a serious problem out there. The level of engagement, the level of economic interdependence which US and China share are going to circumscribe America's options. But also there is a serious concern that what if China occupies Taiwan? So that is going to have a domino effect, and I think there is going to be a serious sort of thinking about how to really stop this eventuality from happening. So there is a serious sort of defense planning underway in the US in terms of how China is going to proceed with that, and America has made it very clear, its red line, that they are not going to accept a forcible occupation of Taiwan. Repeatedly they've done that, and there are deterrent strategies being put in place by US to prevent exactly that from happening.
A similar structure has been an alignment between the Quad countries, which are India, Australia, Japan, and the US, which is coming in place in Indo-Pacific to mainly to counter China's growing influence. What are your thoughts on the Quad, sir?
Well,
And how is India placed in Quad?
No, I think that's exactly. We started with Trump. Obviously, that's exactly one of the major reasons that India should be double down on its engagement with the U.S., especially in Quad. For the simple reason is that we do have a clear and present danger at our borders. China, obviously, and China in collusion with Pakistan, and Quad is really about resisting that Chinese sort of coercion at the border, directly or indirectly through Pakistan. So, and I think it really is really about democracies. It is really about global public good. It's really an alternative model, which I think India is placing before the world, and I think India and Quad is really getting traction in many ways.
We spoke a lot about different aspects of Trump and his policies and how he's perceived. If in India, if you were to tell these people who want to read Trump better, as an analyst or as someone who's just interested in geopolitics, what do you think? Which lens should they perceive Trump as?
No, there are two ways at which through which you need to understand Trump and maybe read, but Trump better. In fact, I would also point out that getting China wrong was one of the major sort of assertions made by top academic strategists in the US. So many of us are getting Trump wrong, so the best way I think to look at what Trump is doing is look at America's, as I said earlier, look at America's domestic transformation, look at America's domestic politics, but also look at that in the current sort of Trump's American strategies of dealing with its rivals, with its adversaries. So I think that would give us a better window of understanding how to deal with Trump.
This has been an insightful conversation when it comes to Trump, understanding Trump and his policies in different tangents, different geographical locations as well. But before we end this conversation, I've got two personal questions, if you allow me, sir. Since this podcast is called Diary of a Publisher, I make sure to ask a question based on a book. If there's one book that you wish you would have read earlier in life, which book would that be, sir?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Any book that changed your perspective in life or in the work that you do?
No, obviously I liked, you mentioned John Mearsheimer. So John Mearsheimer, The Tragedy of Great Power Politics. So I think it really takes you to the nerve of how the international system works, and also at one level you can predict how the world is going to move, in what direction great powers are going to react. So I think that's a wonderful way, and I wish obviously that it really gives a very deep insight into the functioning of at the systemic level. So I thought that was a very important book.
Nice. So last question for today is to just talk to your younger self, someone who's trying to be in your position that you are right now. Or what is one piece of advice you would give to that person who's watching and who want to be in a similar tangent as you?
Well, I would definitely recommend, and that is what I recommend to my kids also, that read lots of history. Read lots of biographies. I think they are really a window to something which is eminently, you learn lessons, you learn from the experiences. So I think those are very important, and I found them very useful. I mean, I just love reading biographies. I love reading history. So they really, and as I was mentioning you earlier, also, I mean, one of the current readings I'm doing right now is Confidence Man about Trump by Maggie Haberman. So she is a New York Times columnist for White House, and it really tracks. I mean, what we are seeing now, Trump. Trump has been saying that for years, for decades now, and so I mean, we look at it now that this is something very surprising, that how can Trump say this? But I think all these have been documented, and it's really a surprise that we were surprised by what Trump is doing, or what Trump had done. I mean, during his first presidency, and what he plans to do in his second.
So you're saying understanding history is the best way to speculate the future and learn from it as well. Absolutely beautiful, sir. Thank you so much for your time. It has been insightful conversation. I'm sure it's been for the audience as well.
Great, thank you, Shivam. I really enjoyed this conversation, and looking forward to many more.
Thank you very much. We at DOAP are working really hard to take this podcast to the next level. Our guests are going to get even better. Our production quality is going to get even better. And hopefully, I'm going to get even better too. Most importantly, we are committed to being consistent and continue to do what we love the most. Until then, keep reimagining yourself and know that the power of change lies within you. Jai Hind.